Howdy. So, I dropped myself off over by the lake to run home. Should be like a 15-kilometer run. And it's my first time doing this. First time coming out. And I ate it. I ate it so hard. And now I'm bleeding. And this is the exact same injury I had, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago or something. This takes forever to heal because it's like a scrape, like you've scraped the skin off. So instead of it like closing itself and like this skin goes with that skin, like what you can stitch together, there's no skin. It takes forever. And I'm really annoyed that I ate it and scraped the exact same new skin off of my hand that I just did like 2 months ago. So, I was closer to my bike than I was home. So I'm in the process of running back to my bike now rather than just making it all the way back home. The bleeding has stopped more or less now. More or less. Less. But I don't know. Running with like dirt in your wounds is not my favorite thing. So I'm calling it off and going back. But I'm getting most of my run done anyway because I was a little bit less than halfway done. So my last run cast, I was talking about how fights in Thailand are real and fake simultaneously. And there's been some misunderstanding. There's been some misunderstanding in me saying that. I think the problem comes from the kind of stickiness and inflammatory associations with the word fake as of the last, I don't know, 8 years, something like this. Fake has become a word that people really freak out about. And I understand this. It comes off as like that you're being duped. It comes off as like necessarily really bad. And so fake maybe is not the word that I should have used. Maybe performative would be a better word for that. People who misunderstood this kind of took it to mean that now anytime they're watching a fight, it might be fake, and now they're like looking for the fake fight and all these things, and it's not really like that. What I mean is that the real and the fake are braided together. Like there are fake moments or performative moments in fights, but that doesn't make the entire thing fake. So the way it's braided in or something like this is maybe if you look at football, soccer. So I'm going to say soccer because I'm American, but I mean football. So in soccer, you'll see these people go down, roll around on the ground, and just completely overperform a foul. The reason they do this is to get the referee's attention, right? It doesn't make the entire game fake. Often they were fouled, but they don't need to roll around on the ground as though they're about to die kind of thing. They're overperforming. This is fake within a real situation. They're doing it to get the attention of the ref. The ref is then forced to like look at it and call it and things like this. And so it is a performative aspect of a very real game. Real things are happening. Potentially a real foul happened, just not to the extent that it looked like that. That's not how it works in Muay Thai, but that's what I mean in that like the real and the performative are kind of like braided together in one thing. It doesn't happen as often as this does in soccer. Like I don't want, when I'm saying that there's real and performed in Muay Thai all the time, that people mean this is every single fight. It's not every single fight. It is a lot of fights, but it's not every single fight. And it does not make the entire thing fake. It doesn't make the entire thing unreal in any way. Another example is sparring, right? Sparring seems very real. Like you are actually trying to do things. Your partner is actually trying to do things. You are actually getting hit by things. But regardless of how real your sparring might feel and might be, and it is very, very close to fighting, it is not fighting. There is some degree of protection. You don't go as hard, or you know that there's like, I know Gary, he's not gonna hit me that hard, or like, you know that it's not gonna get out of hand, or you know that it is gonna get out of hand, given how I read some people on Reddit that like things just go crazy in sparring all the time. I don't know. But sparring and fighting, incredibly similar to each other, but one is not real and one is real. And people seem to kind of understand this. Like people seem to know that like one is play, practice, and one is real. So when I say the difference between like fake and real, I kind of mean like practice and real, that division, although it is performative, like it's creating an image of something rather than it being practice for something. Another way that I was thinking might help people understand what I'm talking about is that when you have a disparity in skill and a disparity in experience, which happens in Muay Thai when you give one person like a size advantage and you give the other person like an experience skill advantage. Experience is just a different word for skill. Like someone who sucks and has 50 fights doesn't get an advantage over someone who is much bigger than them and has 10 fights. Like you have to be skilled in order for that to actually balance out. It's not just experience. But when you have a difference in skill and size, there's gonna be a difference in how real that fight is. Necessarily. Like when I'm playing with a dog, it's much more real for the dog than it is for me, because I have this wherewithal to like see that this is not gonna escalate, we're just playing, it's this, that, and the other thing. Like to the dog, it's like, you are stealing my stick and this is the end of the world, you know? Like there's a difference in how seriously each one of us is taking that situation, even though what we're doing together as we're playing together, it's real for both of us. It's just a different degree of real to each of us. So if you get someone who's very, very skilled going against someone who is bigger than them in order to try to balance that out, if the person who's bigger is really inexperienced, not simply the size, but if that other person is really inexperienced, how real that fight is different between those two people. And that does not mean it's fake for the person who has a little bit of a lighter, like, this is not too serious for me. It just means that there's a difference in performance between those two. I think there's also a, I forgot what I was going to say just then. Some people were understanding that like part of why you won't get like a fight to the death fight on a Tuesday night. I wrote a blog post about this many, many years ago called the 80% fight. And it's basically like a lot of fights are just for experience. Like if they're in the provinces or they're just kind of in town, like they're not for a big side bet or they're not for a belt. Like there's no big consequence on it. They're just for experience. It's not that important. It doesn't mean that the Thai fighter's not going to fight. It doesn't mean that they're not going to take it seriously, but it's not that important. It's just for experience. The way I've always said this, and one of the reasons we moved to Thailand rather than the way it's done in the West, is that I played soccer as a kid. You don't like rip your heart out and play as hard as you fucking can and you're gonna die if you don't get the win on like a Saturday game in soccer. Like you're gonna play next Saturday. You play hard, you want to win. It still hurts when you don't lose. I mean, when you don't win. Losing always sucks. Even these fighters who, like, for them it's just experience, it doesn't feel good to lose. They hate losing. They still hate losing. It just doesn't matter as much. Like, it's not a huge stain on you to have lost. Whereas if you fight in a fight that has like a big side bet on it, or for a championship fight, there's a lot of risk of face in that. And so that one, they're gonna try as hard as they possibly can, which is why gambling or side bets or title fights or any of these things are ways to kind of infuse competitiveness and like incentive into fights. And it's good that fighters are like, it's Tuesday and it's okay if I go fight, rather than like, oh my God, if I don't win this fight, it's gonna be the end of my life. It's good that in Thailand, you can just go pick up a fight, because there are times, and Thailand has proven, they can find a replacement. So if everyone was like, oh my God, every fight is the hardest fight I've ever had and I have to like throw myself entirely into it and it's shame on my family if I don't win it, you would not be able to get someone to come fight you at last minute. I've had fights where I've had a last minute replacement. I've had fights where I am the last minute replacement. Many times. And it's just because I'm always ready. So I'm like, sure. It's not because those fights don't matter to me. All my fights mean a great deal to me. I feel immense shame when I lose my fights. Even though in the long run, 1 out of 279 fights, right? Like this seems like this shouldn't matter. It fucking matters. It matters to Thais too. I'm not saying they don't care. I'm saying that it's not as Like, if you only have 10 fights, those 10 matter a lot because you only have those 10. Thais are going to have many, many, many fights, and they see a lot of them as experience, like I'm saying, of these, like, soccer games, you know? I don't remember most of my soccer games from when I was a kid playing. They were just experience. If I then went on to be a professional soccer player, I especially wouldn't remember those games, because now my games mean a whole lot more to me. Like, each one matters because of your placement in, you know, the league or whatever these things are. So I don't want people to misunderstand what I'm saying and think that everything is inauthentic and fake and things like this. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that there's performance and face and aesthetic braided into fighting in Thailand that I don't think is recognizable to how we do things in the West. And that doesn't make it wrong. It's just not easily recognizable until you've been here for a very, very long time. And when I'm saying these things, like when I'm talking about fighting in Thailand and how I've seen these things and what it means and kind of how I've observed these different things, honestly, I'm talking about things that might be so significantly different from how things are done in the West that it's like talking from another planet. Like, if people start telling me what fighting was like in the West, I'd understand quite a bit of it because I'm a Westerner, because I was raised in the West, and so a lot of the ethics that go around it I would be familiar with because I've seen those around in the West in many places. But it's not my experience fighting, because I purposefully left that and moved to Thailand because I like the way it's done in Thailand. I like the way it's like you just use it as an experience to get better. And that doesn't mean it's insignificant. It just means that it's not the whole picture all the time. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to talk about it like many, many times. I think there's just gonna be misunderstandings necessarily because there are like huge cultural and like significant worldview differences going into these things. And it's crazy. Like, sometimes I'm talking about these things not mattering because it's just like in town you just want to go get some experience, and like this one matters because you're fighting for the national team even though it's just amateur, and this one doesn't matter as much because it's a Tuesday in town and you just have to like go get some experience and you're filling a fight and you do get paid and all these things. And so it seems like one should be more significant than the other, even though they're pretty similar to each other. But the things that make Thais take a fight very seriously are things that I think the West doesn't recognize a whole lot. Like, you would think that fighting on a big televised show, like international kind of biggest attention kind of thing, you'd think those fights would be taken really seriously because we as Westerners take them very seriously. And Thais, because there's no gambling, because the weigh-in is like this, that, or the other thing that didn't make weight, it's just not taken seriously. Like, you didn't make weight, it's not taken seriously. Without gambling, it's not taken seriously. And I think that we Westerners have a really hard time with that. I remember a story that made me laugh so hard. Back when I used to train at Petchy Jazz Gym, there's this kid, Mark, and his dad. His name's Mark, but he's Thai. I can't remember his dad's name, but his dad was his pad man. And he was talking about how they had trained some, I think he was Polish, like there was some Western guy who had come and trained at their gym. And he had kind of like hurt his shin. And so he pulled out of the fight that he had scheduled for himself. Like, he's like, oh, I'm going to fight. I'm going to have this fight. But then he hurt his shin. And he's like, I can't fight because I hurt my shin. And it's a low-level fight. And with a low-level fight, they don't like when you pull out. Like, if it's a big fight with like gambling and stuff like that, they also don't like when you pull out. But there's more at stake. And so they kind of understand that more. When you pull out of a low-level fight, they're kind of like, what the hell, just do it. And so this dude had like hurt his shin. And he's like, oh, I can't fight, I hurt my shin. And I don't know how they got to this, but the promoter had like a plastic trophy, like the ones that you get in like intramural soccer when you're a kid. And he was like, we were gonna give this trophy to the winner. And when this Polish guy saw the trophy, he was like, I'll fight. I'll go through the pain, I'll fight because I want the trophy. And Thais thought this was hilarious. It's just a plastic trophy. And they're like, if there was like a side bet or money, like if you're risking something, pulling out of it makes sense. But if it's like you're just fighting for the pay, that's not a big deal. But to fight for this plastic trophy for the Thais was so funny. They were like, this makes no sense. And this is another like just Western Thai, like what incentivizes people for a fight, like what makes you take something or like push yourself through something is very different between cultures. And I've run I hate races. Like I hate races. I have run races in college because they give you a t-shirt. I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll do that 10K because you get a t-shirt. Like that's kind of a weird reason to do something, but you know, that's incentive enough in some places. So yeah, all right, I'm almost back to my bike, bobbling this beautiful lake reservoir. All right, talk to you guys later.